This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Tuesday, September 29th, 2020, episode 298. Wow, serenading the intro to our show, Mr. Judd with the 22-month resubscription. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, if you miss any portion of our program, you can visit our website, infectionpodcast.com. Now, before I introduce my co-host, I want to say here that I've got a new article, Brian, on my website, dudenit.com. This is a hot article right here. This is using PowerPanel, which is the cyber power UPS software. Using that software with another piece of software called SSMTP to have it send you an email when your power goes. I got a full article in here. I got code snippets. I'm not,
nice.
Brian, I'm a humble person. I don't brag ever. And I definitely don't have a big ego.
Exactly.
Never. Not me. Not at all. Dudenit.com. Don't check it out. But, this is a useful article because it took me like 3 or 4 days. I was working with our friend Sean. I was like, there's no, the built-in default mail uses the mail server on the Linux box, which I don't want to run an SMTP server on my Linux box. So,
So what is SSMTP? Is that like a secure SMTP or what's it?
It's not. It's just it's a server. It's an app that allows you to use an external SMTP relay to send mail instead of using your internal. Okay. So I'm using Zoho as my SMTP relay, which is where my mail server is, instead of rolling a mail server on my Linux box. So nice. I know everybody was. People were coming to my house, knocking on my door, asking when this article was going to be live. So I finally got the article live the past week.
People fans are demanding. So.
Yeah, absolutely. People, one of those planes flew by with it's dragging the letters behind it, looking for the guide. Everybody was interested, and it's now up at dudenit.com. Not a sponsor. Joining me from the great state of Boise, Idaho, which is not an ad either. Brian, well, they should be, but because they do a lot of advertising. I hear Idaho potato ads all over the damn place.
Oh yeah, we work hard for that.
Yeah, but they're not sponsoring our show, so we're giving them free plugs for the last 297.
I'm sure if we name this like Infection, the Idaho podcast, I could get them to sponsor our show, but I don't know if we want to pull that off.
It would be just as relevant as our current name in the things that we talk about. So, Mr. Brian, how are things going in your world?
I'm doing very well. But first of all, if you want to find me, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Parler. Also, you can go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. But most importantly, go to our website, go to infectionpodcast.com. And on the right-hand side, you should join our Discord server. If you do that, get a nice little pop-up, or actually, you can submit news to the channel, for there's a news channel in there. And if there's something you think we should be covering that we're not, submit it. And we usually cover all of those in our notes, unless it's something way off topic. Also, right below that, you get a Steam group, get a notification right before the show starts, 5 or so minutes. And then we have a link to our YouTube, to our Twitch, to our BitChute, and our DLive, and those are all the video forms of the podcast. And then there's the podcast extras, which has pre and post shows that we don't put on our main channel. Thanks to Judd for doing that for us. Below that, we have all the different audio forms. So whether or not you're using a desktop app, a mobile app, or maybe even a web-based app has RSS feeds and has a lot of different ways that you can listen to us after the fact. And then if you are listening or watching to us after the fact, you can follow along with our show notes. And we have one for every single episode up to now 298 episodes. So by the time this is uploaded, we will have show notes for this episode up there, and you can go check out any of the videos, articles, things that we reference throughout this episode right now. If you want to support us, you can do that through humble.infectionpodcast.com, amazon.infectionpodcast.com, or of course through, as you heard with Judd, our Prime Gaming subs here on Twitch.
Yes.
So I think that's it.
Bingo, boom, shakalaka.
We want to thank a couple of people, of course, including our friend It's Judd and Falcon, who I believe hit us with the resub during the outro. Guys, we do a 2-hour show.
We'd cover it next week.
We do a 2-hour show, and you pick the 4 minutes of the 2-hour show that is intro and outro to subscribe. I mean, I appreciate your sub, but you have an hour and 50 something plus minutes to subscribe to the show. And then I'm doing my outro. Yeah, it's like it's a pre-roll.
It's like what's with all these new rules that we have to follow now? No, you can't do it all during the pre and post show.
I'm not saying it's a rule, but I'm doing the intro here. The intro's stressful, Brian. There's a lot of move. I got to start the recorder. I got to start my topic timer. I got to get the music, and then all of a sudden it's like, Judd resubscribes, and I'm like, thanks, Judd, but I'm over here already having a panic attack, and
Now, I don't know if you did notice, I did put a rules channel in the Discord.
Oh, what's in the rules channel?
Well, nothing is in there yet. So
you don't have rules.
They have a new community setting for Discord for servers. And so I turned ours to community because it's supposed to give you some extra features.
We're going to be banned.
They want you to have a rules channel, and they want you to have, other things.
Yeah, that's got to be a rule. Rule number 1, don't sub in the intro and outro. I put it in the book.
I figured we'll come up with a little list of rules. They could be as
one
rule
only
as we want.
Do not subscribe during the intro and outro of the show.
All right, I can change that. I can make that the one.
Hate speech, derogatory terms, name call. It doesn't matter, Brian. Just don't subscribe during the
pornography. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
As long as
as
long as you don't sub in the intro and outro. All right, I'll put that in there. We got it.
So
it's going to be a little bit longer meeting than that, but we got this.
Yeah, well, hey, that's what we're doing here. I want to thank Judd and our friend Falcon, as well as about a dozen and a half or so other people that are subscribed to us here on Twitch. We've got a busy news week, Brian. And I guess you mentioned earlier the whole RSS thing, which we've talked about extensively on the show. We've talked about it in the past, and we've got a couple more bits of news coming out about Spotify, and of course the Joe Rogan transition to Spotify. Yes. And there is now talks. Last week we talked about employees at Spotify wanting creative control before a show is released. So he would do a show, somebody at Spotify or a team at Spotify would have to listen to it, and then if they deemed a segment or a phrase inappropriate, they would edit it out, and you and I would never know because it's the show's not live. It would just be wiped away. And the CEO of Spotify, to his credit, has stood ground on this and said, "Hey, we're not doing this. Like, this is not a mutiny. Like, you are employees of this company. You like, the inmates don't run the jail. The inmates don't run the prison." And he's been staying pretty strong on that. And now, of course, the employees are threatening to strike. Which, by the way, you can't strike if you're not unionized. Striking while not unionized is no showing, which will get you fired. So I'll just say that out there. Yeah. You can't, if you're not part of a union, you can't strike. That's not a term that exists.
Well, you could try. I mean,
yeah, but that's not a strike. Like that's you not showing up to your job. That's not a strike. So
I thought that was a right nowadays. Aren't you allowed to do that?
Yes, no. That you don't have a union, so you can't strike. So people are threatening to essentially walk out of the job here, and I think it's pretty safe to say, Brian, that Joe maybe. I'm not going to say he bit off more than he could chew, but $100 million, which again is more money than you and I will ever make, and probably our families will ever make in our lifetime. So take that for what it's worth. I have a feeling that may have not been the best deal for him, because every week since there has been a new controversy around Joe Rogan, and frankly, he's kind of cucked to it, to use a popular term, because he's now releasing statements of apology for saying things. Joe Rogan is not a news source. Joe Rogan is not a newspaper. It's a freaking podcast. He's not he's not, I was going to say Washington Post or New York Times, but those guys don't write anything actual either, but he's not an acclaimed news outlet. He's a guy who was punched in the head a bunch in mixed martial arts, and it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's not Walter Cronkite. I mean, he's not.
The thing that concerns me the most is, first of all, what got him to be so popular was the fact that he brought in so many different voices. If he would have brought in only, let's say, super liberal people or super conservative people, or if he only brought in, people on one side of, he brings in all kinds of different topics, tech topics, science topics, religion, everything.
Alex Jones.
The reason the people, Alex Jones, whatever topic that is, he brings in a little bit of everything to give people a perspective of both sides of an issue, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Spotify, the employees that are triggered, we'll use the word triggered because that's really what they are here. They don't like the fact that he has a dissenting opinion on his podcast, which is the whole point of his podcast. Is they're demanding you only have one side of an opinion, our side of an opinion, which is happening a lot in politics. And to me, it's pretty disgusting. The fact that people are unwilling to even listen to the opposite point of view anymore. Like I hear opposite point of views all day long. I hear them. I hear people that I'm like, okay, I don't agree with that, but you know what? I think to myself, well, they have the right to believe that. If they want to have a discussion and hear my point of view, maybe, convince them differently, or they can try to convince me differently. Sure, we can have that conversation, but it's not my job to say you don't have the right to your own opinion. So this is something here. I think this is going to hurt his brand quite a bit, because the people that go to listen to him, he's only now allowed to show one perspective, the whole point of his podcast is out the window. So I don't really, it's called the Joe Rogan experience, because you're getting his experience, it's like life, whatever. He's like, he's showing things, and now it's going to be the Spotify experience, whatever they're allowing you to see, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah. And, Donnie makes a good point, chat. I don't feel bad for Joe. He was basically the top, he was the top podcaster in the world on YouTube, doing his own thing. Now he's somebody's bitch. Joe is going to delete his YouTube stuff pretty soon. I refuse to watch or listen beyond that point. I'm not supporting Spotify. Yeah, I mean, Donnie, you make a good point. Now, I pay for. I'm a Spotify customer for music. I do not use them for my podcasting. I will not use them for their podcasting because they're not actually a podcast service. They don't allow you to. Yeah, they don't allow you to put a custom RSS feed into your stream, which makes it technically not a podcatcher. It's not a podcast player. Podcast is defined using the Real Simple Syndication Protocol, RSS. Spotify is not a podcast player. It does not use RSS on the front end. I don't know what it does on the back end. It does not use RSS. You cannot put your own. If Spotify determines you are not nice, they don't like you. Okay, I'll bring them up again. Alex Jones. They pull you off the platform. There is no way for you to listen to him on their platform. Every other podcast app that exists allows you to put in a custom RSS feed. Spotify does not. They are not a podcast player. Plain and simple. They're a directory, which is fine. It's their own directory. They can do whatever the hell they want. But let's be clear. They are not a podcast directory. They say they're going to take over podcasting, but they won't, because they miss the quintessential part of podcasting, which is the fact that you don't need a centralized place to do podcasting. Our podcast is not centralized at all. Brian pays a web server every month. That's how you listen to our podcast. Nobody owns it. Brian owns it. Brian and I own it. There is no control. Apple doesn't own it. Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, nobody owns it. We do whatever we want with it. It's our feed, and we own it. That's what makes podcasting so great.
And that's what made him so successful, is the fact that he was beholden to sponsors in a way. He did those 5 to 10 minutes of reads in the beginning,
but they knew what they were getting
prior to going into a show. But he could, if one of them dropped him, he could go pick up another one, fill those spots. He was popular enough that would be easy to do. Now he doesn't have that option. That was the beauty of RSS feeds and podcasting, is as long as he was able to line up his own advertisers or some form of way to advertise and make money, then it didn't matter what else he did. He couldn't have a central one organization say, we're going to shut you down, and have it actually happen. Right now, he's put himself in that position to where one company can say, hey, we don't want to hear you anymore, and they can shut him down. And that was not, even if Apple would have removed him from the RSS feed on their network, he still could have worked. He still could have, people that had already subscribed to him still would have done it. He could have put up his own webpage saying, hey, subscribe here, click this link on your phone, and it'll open up in a podcast app. He could have done a number of things. He could have created his own app that just played his own podcast. I mean, there's lots of stuff he could have done. But he has totally lost that ability now, and he can actually be shut down. And pretty much the exact same thing that happened to Dr. Disrespect could happen to him. Dr. Disrespect, one of the biggest names on that platform, they decided they didn't want to hear from him anymore. Bam, he was gone. And
Yeah, I mean,
and now he's not allowed to broadcast on that platform anymore. And he's managed to come back and he's doing things. But I mean, as a person who's luckily he's got a big enough contract here to where even if they screw him over, I'm assuming he's going to be okay to a point. But he's putting himself at risk doing this, and it's just frustrating when you see people go to a more of a closed environment, leaving an open environment, but then expecting the same thing when we know perfectly well you're not going to get the same thing.
I'll leave it with this. I do not believe Joe Rogan will live out his contract at Spotify. I believe I don't know how long the exclusive contract is. I would assume at $100 million, it's got to be at least 5 years, if not more. It could be a 10-year contract. I'm not sure. I do not believe he will live out that whole contract at Spotify.
Is that a prediction?
There's no way. Yeah, it is a prediction. And I don't think it's a hot take either.
I have an alternate possible prediction.
We're what? We're literally 4 weeks into this? It's September 1st. We're 4 weeks into it. He's been in the news every week, and now Spotify employees are threatening to protest work. There's no way he goes through this entire contract. It might get bought out, but I don't see him living his entire contract at Spotify. It just doesn't seem realistic. It's not a good partnership. Sometimes things fail. And this might be a situation where some things looked really good on paper. The reality is, it's just not going to work. It's going to end up destroying Joe's show and his reputation. And in the case of Spotify, it's just a bunch of bad PR that they don't have to deal with. They're already the largest music platform in the world. They don't care. So
I have an alternate possibility, because that is very possible depending on how things go. Yeah. The other possibility, I think, is that depending on how the election goes, I think we've already seen a lot of companies that were very, we'll say, woke, that are now starting to back away from that because things are becoming more clear. As far as certain stances, they're realizing, oh, that wasn't actually a good cause. That was purely a political stance. Some of these companies are starting to back out of these woke agendas. I think that if enough companies start doing it, these other companies won't be so scared to say, all right, we're going to back away. Because right now they're feeling threatened. People come after them. It's the cancel culture, shutdown culture. I think there may be a point where companies start to kind of back away from that profile. And then maybe Spotify will rebrand more as a free, or not them, but somebody will come in as more of a free alternative and start picking up people that actually want to have a debate or both sides of a conversation.
Yeah. To Spotify's credit so far, I would say that they've done probably better than every other tech company has thus far. They have not pulled him from the platform. From what we know, they haven't censored any of his new episodes yet. And the CEO has been pretty steadfast in, we are not going to allow you to just like run amok. You make $32,000 a year at this company. You are not an employee that gets to decide.
You're not going to shut us down.
You are not going to decide our $100 million contract with Joe Rogan. I'll give Spotify credit for that. They've had the balls thus far to stand up. Now, if employees start walking off the job, that's a whole nother question. But thus far, I've got to give them credit.
They could very easily become instantly the platform of freedom, freedom in the term of not for one side or the other. But if they came out and said, hey, we're making a stand right now that just because you hear opinions on here that you don't like, we think it's important that you hear both sides of an argument before you make your own decision. If they came at it with the right way of thinking, I think that they could really make it to where they win, at least on one side of the argument. I think maybe the other side, they don't want to hear dissenting opinions or alternate opinions or be willing to, and so they may not. But I think if they did that, they would get a lot more support and a lot more people willing to go and use their platform because they wouldn't be so scared of being constantly threatened to shut down. I mean, look at what it's done to YouTube. Look at Twitch, I mean, you can get naked and show your boobs and do everything else on Twitch, but my goodness, you better not say something that's an unpopular opinion, right? They'll kick you off as fast as possible. So that's kind of a frustrating thing. I think that it's waiting for a platform where they say, hey, you may not agree. We don't even have to agree with everything that's being said here, but we're fighting for the right for everyone to be able to say their point of view as long as it doesn't harm someone else physically.
Yeah.
And that's where because they take the words that say words are violence. Not true. You could say whatever you want to me. It may hurt my feelings, but it's not hurting me physically. Right. So
well, mental health is physical health, Brian, but we're not gonna lament that.
We're gonna get there. Yeah.
We're not gonna lament that. So that's a little bit of update here on Joe Rogan and Spotify. We'll continue. I think Brian and I both have a vent. Well, you as a listener have a vested. You're not. This is not the only podcast that you listen to. As I hope it's not. I'm sorry if it is. You have a vested interest in the outcome of this because the impacts of this are pretty broad and pretty wide sweeping. So, with that being the case, let's talk about some more drama here. Epic Games, they have decided that they are going to take on the pissing match of their life with another company that loves to have large pissing matches, and that is Apple. Epic, so to recap what has happened here, Epic put an update out to Fortnite a couple of months ago, which allowed in-app purchases not through the iOS store, which circumvented Apple's 30% fee that they've got in their terms of service. That is, if you agree to as a developer, if you're going to publish your game on their platform, that's the rule. Yep. That's been the rule as long as I can remember it being the rule. That's the rule. Epic decided they were not going to follow that. They wanted to buck Apple on that and do their own thing. Fine. Apple took Fortnite out of the store, threatened to shut down their developer account, and then Epic sued them. So we had some, and this has all happened pretty quick, which I was surprised about. This only started a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago. And there's already court proceedings going on. And in the case of Epic versus Apple, in this one, the judge was very critical of Epic's actions leading up to the lawsuit, saying that the company was not honest when it released the Fortnite update that enabled users to bypass Apple's payment system. And the judge seemed to suggest that Epic's actions actually helped justify Apple's choice of removing their app from the store because it was against their policy. So this is, I had you don't take on Apple. I don't care how big Tim Sweeney thinks he is. You are not going to take on Apple and win. They've got the best crackpot lawyers in the world. Their terms of service are rock solid. They have sued people over jailbreaking phones that they bought. Like buy a phone, they have literally threatened to sue people or maybe gone through with suing people for jailbreaking their own device. There was not a snowball's chance in hell that Epic had any legs to stand on in this case. Well, now it's not over yet, but
it's going to a jury trial. So the best thing they can hope for is that they can sway opinion somehow. But this is now going to a jury trial. There was also another thing I didn't put in the notes, but Google is now changing their terms to include that 30% fee is going to be on all in-app purchases as well, to require that. So Google is changing it to follow the exact same thing that Apple is doing right now, to where they are going to enforce the rules that you have to, if you're doing any in-app purchases, to do that 30% as well. So this is going to be an interesting fight. We'll see what actually happens. I'm just not sure. I keep hearing the judge is not happy with Epic at the moment. Saying that they were not honest. So this is going to be a really interesting case.
Real quick, here's her quote. You did something. You lied about it by omission, by not being forthcoming. That's the security issue. That's the security issue. There are a lot of people in the public who consider you guys heroes for what you guys did, but it's still not honest. This has to do with the fact that the reason Apple doesn't allow this is they say that they want to protect users from malicious software. And they want to make sure that if somebody is putting something on the App Store and charging for something in-app, that there's security. Now, to me, that's ridiculous.
That's a BS. That's a BS. Just an argument for the sake of saying, "Hey, that's why we have to control everything down to the dot." But that doesn't mean anything about that transactions of payments.
Yes,
and having a certain fee.
And the point is, as ridiculous as I think it is, and as ridiculous as I know you think it is, and Green Man thinks it is, saying that the judge is being paid. It's Apple's playground.
I bet the judge uses it. Here, could you get thrown off if they use an iPhone? If the judge uses an iPhone, you say, "Hey, that's a conflict of interest. Sorry.
The worst trade deal of all
Bingo,
time.
boom, shakalaka.
Thank you, UGX Vibe, for hitting
Hey,
us
here we
up.
got a rule follow, right? He didn't do it in the intro or outro. We're set.
I believe his comment is high. I believe he is the leader of subscribers at 32 months. Jesus.
Yes, he is. Actually, wait. Well, he's now tied with Green Man. Green Man is at 32 months. Green Man did it before him, so Green Man is currently ahead. Hopefully, Green Man never lapses and loses his top spot. But
so thank you, UGX Vibe. We appreciate your support, and hopefully, when all this nonsense is over, we can grab a burger.
Hang out again.
Yeah. Do something. Do something fun. Yeah, we're gonna start a war in chat for people. Yeah, you should show him by subscribing. Yeah, that would really show him. Do that. That'll show him. So early on in the case, not looking great for Epic. I think a lot of people thought it was gonna go this way. The judge, rightfully so, is pointing out that Epic changed this update and knew damn well what they were doing and decided that they wanted to take on the beast and it wasn't going to work. So that's kind of what we've got at this point.
Nice. So, well, we'll see. Are you all right with going on to something about Microsoft?
Yeah. Of course. Huge news last week. What else we got?
So I think I kind of hinted at this. I'm pretty sure I said almost this exact thing, but the CEO of Microsoft said they are not done buying game studios. And that's what I was hinting at. I think this is the new standard going forward, rather than, because you can't really always lock down the hardware market. And I think, as we talked about last week, I don't think that this platform of consoles and everything else is going to stay exactly the same way. You know, I think that it's going to turn to various devices that have access to all the Xbox games. I know Microsoft is making a big push to add, like, for instance, EA Play is going to be on their PC version of the Game Pass. So they're really, I think they're working on more of providing you games, less about the hardware. I mean, of course, the hardware is there, but as you and I have discussed, we think that's a losing game in the long run.
It is.
Hardware is just going to get to a point where you can't expect a piece of hardware to last 5 years. There could be some dramatic change in 1 year in that changes even displays, you know, and all of a sudden this device that you made doesn't work, you know, doesn't display something in a new way. Maybe it's 3D, you know, something that it does. Well, you can't just immediately fix that. You have to wait till your next version of the Xbox or put out a whole new version of it. So I think, and Green Man's pointing out, they also lose money on the hardware. They lose money on consoles. They make money on everything else. So why would you stay in consoles? They think they've discovered, hey, there is a path out of hardware for us while still being the hub for games. Now, there's going to be more competition. Right now, it's been Nintendo, which isn't really competition, right?
They're their own
Sony's competition to them. So it's always been a war back and forth between Sony and Xbox. Well, I think the first one that transfers out, kind of like what Microsoft has done. Microsoft in the operating system has been less about the operating system. They don't charge for updates anymore because they realize the services and everything else that goes along with it is better. So I think that they're going to try to come up with ways to create hardware that's more about the streaming or some way to provide that in a way that they don't have to constantly be doing this hardware war. So they're going to keep buying more studios. I've heard a lot of interesting ones. You know, did we say Rockstar last week? You know, various big ones that would be really cool. But they just said they are going to continue going forward. I put some other articles discussing the future of Bethesda's games. So one thing, here's a quote from that. He says, "I have yet to meet an executive who does not want to accelerate the sale of a potential product." So, you know, because people are all very concerned about what about, you know, are these games now on PS4? They have said that they're going to keep a lot of those going. If anything, I think this is going to just provide a boost of cash, maybe some other resources. If you look at what Microsoft has Azure. Microsoft equivalent to like what Amazon has. They have a huge server platform for hosting
SQL.
These they have for database, like all the tools. They have all the rest of it. So I think this is kind of a good housing company for a lot of these studios because they can provide all the platforms to make all this happen. And I think that in the long run, that might work. I don't know how much Sony, as far as having an edge in that, because they don't have that back. They're using other people's services, AWS. That's very difficult. That's going to be more expensive for them. So I think personally, Microsoft's in a little better position, just like Amazon, with their game studio, they're in a very good position to be able to provide online hosting for servers because they have access to unlimited amounts. Yeah. So I think we're going to keep seeing this, and hopefully, we saw what Google did. Google with their Stadia.
Oh my God!
You said a year ago, screw those guys. Is what you were saying. Because you could tell they're not really serious about it. It's more of a game for them. That's how Google is in a lot of things. So I think that we're going to come out of this. I don't think Google's really going to get this space. I think it's going to be a war right now between Sony and Microsoft, and maybe, we'll see. What would you find it would here? I have one thing that I haven't said to anybody, but do you think there's a possibility that Microsoft could ever buy Steam?
Is there a possibility? Yes. Will it happen?
Because Gaben,
no.
At what point is he going to retire?
What is it possible? Would they be one of the, okay? If
it seems like it would make sense to pretty much own the PC market.
Do I think that Steam will ever go for sale? Probably not. But if they did, I think Microsoft would probably be your top contender.
That's because that's what I was thinking. Because at some point, Gabe is just going to be like, he's at the point probably where he's ready to retire, and he likes to control things. I could just see them selling that company because it's the perfect base to then offer, because they're not taking advantage of all the perks that they could be doing other than just selling you a game and making 30% off of it, right? That's what they do right now, and they make their money on. I sense that they could do so much more with subscriptions of games and coming up similar with what Microsoft is doing. Imagine if you had the full access of Steam and you had that negotiating power to try to do things like that. I think it would open up the door quite a bit. Or say, hey, if you put your game on our streaming service, we will then charge you 15% instead of 30% for any sales of the game, and you'll make that much money. Things like that. I would see that it'd be possible for them to get people to actually make those a much bigger platform.
I do think if Steam were to go on sale, for sale, that Microsoft would probably be the top dog. I just don't see it right now. Now, things change, who knows, but Greedman points out that Microsoft has more money than God. That's true. It's not going to be a money issue. The question's going to be who is
Steam
it's not even
do it.
It's not even just Microsoft. Nvidia just spent $40 billion for ARM.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about serious chunks of change flying around here.
Because they're buying the patents and everything else. It seems like that would be, if you're looking at studios and you're wanting to control the PC market, like, you don't need to own the studio in that case. You can make a huge chunk of money off of every single sale of PC game. They're already not doing great with their Microsoft Store. What if they rebranded?
They're doing the best that they've
better
been
than
so
they
far.
were.
Best in the generation.
And a lot of it has
right
to do with this. A lot of it has to do with the subscriptions,
Game Pass,
in the Game Passes and everything else. It just seems like if they could then integrate the Steam marketplace somehow into that store and make it to where it's one uniform store for the PC market, they could pretty much own the whole thing. Because right now they're trying to kind of compete against Steam, and I don't think that's going to work for them in the long run. It works through the subs and through the Game Pass, but not outside of that.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that they're going to try to own that Game Pass market because they've got an incredible Game Pass catalog. And I've been told multiple times I need to subscribe to the Game Pass on PC, so I need to probably look into that and
they've been adding some pretty cool games, especially you got that Microsoft Simulator. There's just some things that they've been getting is now with this new purchase of Bethesda. They've already got the EA Game Pass. You get a ton of awesome games for a reasonable price. You can play them on PC, console. It makes more sense than the PlayStation Now that Sony's been offering to me.
Yes. Yeah,
so
I would.
I think they're in a much better position.
I would tend to agree. we've got some other generic news that I guess that we can come back to. I do want to cover a couple of things here, Brian. Let's take a look. Let's jump into a game that we don't talk about all that often, Astroneer. We had the opportunity to, I believe you had the opportunity, but we saw this game at PAX last year.
It was right before I think they announced their
PlayStation
console version, if I remember correctly, their PS4 version.
Yeah, so they've got a pretty big update out here. This is update 1.15 for Astroneer, and there's a couple of things in here. They updated to Unreal Engine 4.23, which I guess is just a big engine upgrade, so that's good.
About that time was when they were doing a lot of pretty good enhancements to Unreal. So right around that early 4.20s, because we're at I think 4.25 right now. The early 4.20s, they had some really good performance, especially for big open world environments, which I'm sure is what they're noticing the biggest improvement on. Yes.
Josh is reporting, who is the creator and mastermind behind XERA, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, that 4.23 is buggy as hell. So, well, rest in peace. Pour one out for the folks over at Astroneer. On this,
they'll be going to 4.24 soon. I'm sure that'll be the next update. 4.24. Yeah.
So that's their big engine upgrade they made there. Manual platform locking. All platforms are now manually locked and unlocked through their tooltip. Locking and unlocking no longer occurs when connecting or disconnecting cables to a platform, and only platforms that are anchored to terrain can be locked, and platforms that become unanchored from terrain, such as when the terrain is dug out beneath them, are automatically unlocked. So they made a bit of a change to that. Update to terrain tool equipping and activation in relation to the backpack. If the terrain tool is not equipped when the backpack has been opened, it will no longer become equipped when the backpack is closed. So I guess that was a bug. If you open the backpack, the terrain tool would become your equipped weapon when you left, or when you would leave it. So that would, of course, be an issue. A couple of updates and things that they did in here. Added improved slot proximity detection and polarization when placing objects into slots or hooking up cables. Now, when we say cables, this game, you hook an oxygen line. An oxygen line always trails you. Or it doesn't always trail you, but for a good chunk of the game, it trails. You can get oxygen packs, but for the most part, you are staying tethered to an oxygen line. And that's why locking and unlocking and tethering and stuff like that is super important in this game. So they mentioned here that the game will now automatically select the nearest available slot to the cursor so that slots can be accessed with less precision targeting, sometimes no longer requiring line of sight. So that's cool. So you can now jump between these points in the cable, and it will automatically lock on. That's pretty neat. Sections in the customization menu are now collapsible, so you've got a little bit more control with that. The Exo Outfitters icon on the main menu and item categories inside will now show a small notification icon when a new item has been added. They fixed a bunch of bugs in here, as well as made some different changes to the store and crashes. Other than that, besides the couple things there with locking and unlocking and the tethering of things, and then of course the big engine update, which they say which is helping optimization big time on Xbox and PlayStation. Big number update, some cool optimization things, nothing super game changing though when it comes to gameplay itself, but still a cool update for a game that I haven't had a chance to really play, but if I could just close my eyes and all of my responsibilities would go away, it would be...
wouldn't that be easier?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it would be one of those games. It's just one of the games I just haven't had a chance to dive into, and it's not justice to play it for 45 minutes and go, oh, Astroneer. No, it's not that. It's like the same thing with Rust and H1Z1 and not H1Z1, Rust, Ark, all these Conan. It's just not meant to be. So that is update 1.15 for Astroneer.
I did want to follow up really quickly on something we discussed within the last couple weeks ago, and that was regarding loot boxes in the UK. And they said that they were going to start prosecuting and doing some court cases regarding that in the UK as far as loot boxes being a form of gambling. Currently, they're doing a call for evidence on this, and so this is something that up until November 22nd, They're doing a call for evidence, so people are able to go in, share their impact of loot boxes in video games. So if you have an opinion, if you have a strong opinion on this, I don't know if this is something they're only bringing in opinions from the UK, possibly.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure it
hey,
is.
we'll have Green Man call in and give his opinion on loot boxes. But
it's terrible.
it's bloody. It's bloody. Oh, wait, that's like Joe. Never mind. So, but the thing is if you are wanting to give some input, we'll have a link in our show notes, and you can go check it out. But this is them moving forward with that. We'll see what happens. I mean, even if the UK bans loot boxes, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's changing here, but it could start changing the mentality towards loot boxes and make companies start doing something different. I think we found the season pass system, people are much more appreciative of that in the long run. They end up spending less money, which I'm sure the companies don't like, but yeah, I think you get more consistent money across the board from all of your user base rather than relying on your fish paying for everything. So
the judge will call a witness to the stand, and it'll be Green Man cartoons, and they'll say, what do you think about this? That's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right. I'd be like, all right, great, fantastic.
That's it.
That's where we stand. So yeah, this is interesting to see. It's gov.uk. That's where they're looking for evidence. So
yep.
Pretty this seems to be the furthest we've gotten into this. It was a Hawaiian senator or something.
There was threatenings from our various people
Nothing
in
crazy
government here, but nobody actually moved forward. I know that the problem is here in the United States, most people in politics are not old enough yet to, or the age demographic of people in video games. They're too old compared to the video game. My age and a little bit older than me are kind of the beginning of the video game years. Most of those people are old enough to be my parents in politics, and you tell them, we think loot boxes is a problem. Loot boxes, they'll be like, where do we find loot boxes? But you got like Tulsi Gabbard and certain other ones that are younger, actually understand what this is. And so you may get some of them kind of moving forward with this, but I think until for some reason somebody just really wants to push this forward, I think because of our issues with companies like this being able to put money into government, I don't think it's really going to get legs, because I don't think the opposing side has legs unless they feel like they need to tax it. If they want to tax it and make money, then it will.
Now let me ask this, Brian. Hypothetical. What if Donald Trump's son Barron comes out against loot boxes?
What if he gets hooked to loot boxes and his dad says, "What are you doing? Why'd you spend $10,000?
$10,000,
whatever game?
Why'd you spend
$750
on loot boxes over here, Barron?" Maybe that's the play. Barron gets hooked on loot boxes, and all of a sudden, the Trump administration comes out on a crusade against loot boxes. Now that would be interesting.
So, and one thing that they do, I mean, I don't use China. I don't tend to use China as a guiding light on any of this. But one thing that China does that I do appreciate is they require that the percentage drop chance rates have to be posted along with the loot boxes. So if you say, what is my percentage chance? And that's why you remember when with H1Z1, they started putting the percentage chances. That's because they were in the Chinese market and China required it. So you could see it was like you had a better chance of winning the lottery than winning some of these loot boxes that they had on there for some of their top tier items. And I think if you were able to put on there, hey, the chance of you winning this item that you think you're going to somehow get out of this loot box is equal to you, Nick, giving birth. I mean, it's pretty close. We're not far off from that percentage chance. Then I think people would realize this is pretty rare. Like
I'm a strong independent
you'll get
woman.
100 red hats if you remember correctly. I have 100 red hats in my inventory, but I don't have a single one of the rare ones. So
yes, the red trucker hats.
Yes, everybody loved those. All 100 of them.
So that is the loot box thing. I don't know what kind of court. I don't know what they're. I've watched some Parliament stuff over in the UK. And that stuff is a disaster and a half. I would love to see what the court in the ruling is going to be. They just yell at each other and they go boo. It's great. It makes the Senate.
See. I mean, who's going to be booing defending loot boxes? I mean, no, my son likes loot boxes. I love spending more money for a virtual item that doesn't exist.
some guy be sitting there hitting a vape, just being like, no.
So that'll be the nice. Imagine the United States Senate in 20 years. You'll just have people vaping on the side and all.
It's no different than them smoking in the Senate. I mean,
well, they used to
hundreds of years. Yeah. Well, I know not anymore, but yeah.
I always love seeing like an old 70s movie where someone's on an airplane and they're smoking on an airplane. It's like nowadays, kids that are young will be like, I remember walking in and having ashtrays in airplanes and having a smoking section in an airplane.
I remember walking into an airplane without a mask on. That was crazy. Yeah, we did. It was like 6 months ago.
That's your new thing. But but back in my day, it was like, oh, all of a sudden smoking wasn't allowed anymore, and now bars couldn't have it, planes didn't have it anymore. Yeah, so we'll see.
I'm gonna take
maybe
up
loot
smoking.
boxes will be there.
I'm gonna bring it back. Infection Podcast is
You're gonna make it cool again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna start here on the podcast. Subscribe so I can afford it. So yeah, that's
we'll have Nick's smoke fund.
That's the conversation about loot boxes. Let's see. Here's a game that we haven't talked about in some time. It's been at least a couple of months. The game called Squad.
Yep.
It's been out for a couple of years. It's been in early access since 2015, but they have now announced that they are coming out officially out of early access, which is cool. We always like to see games doing that. It's very much a it's not quite as Arma, but it's a tactical
it's
military.
Very mod, but it's very like they encourage mods and everything else very much like Arma does. So that's one thing that makes this unique compared to some other systems is they really encourage, just like Arma did, people to make mods and create their own game modes and everything else so that people can make their own experiences. And so I think with this, that's kind of the main. People don't play Squad, I think, to play the generic Squad. I think they play it to play the modded versions. And here, now that they did change to where, because before it was 80 users, they got it to where you can have 100 simultaneous users, which I guess people make BRs in there, other than things like that, and have that kind of, now what's the standard 100 person BR.
Let's
they did add a new map as well. In the 1.0, they're adding Fallujah. They actually have a video. We could show that really quick.
Yeah, let's take a look at this trailer real quick. That'll give us a little bit, and then we'll discuss based on their Steam right after this. If there was any music, viewer discretion is advised. Graphic language, not on this show.
Never.
So I'll say this, Brian. Very cool that they used actual like player game, not just actual gameplay, but recording of streamers or YouTube videos with comms and everything like that. That was super cool. So the game is normally $39.99. It's 25% off. You can pick it up for $30. Overall, it's got an 87% very positive rating, which is out of 42,000 reviews. And its recent reviews, it's got about 2,700 or so of those, and those are 88% positive. So, I own Squad as well. Again, just a game I haven't had a chance to jump into. Anybody that's playing it seems to be having a pretty damn good time because, almost 90% positive reviews on a game that's been in early access for 5 years is quite a feat. So, congrats to these guys.
One thing I don't think a lot of people realize, first of all, this game is made on Unreal Engine. And I've been saying for quite a long time, I really want to see a game that is very suited towards modding that's done on Unreal Engine, because we haven't, we've gotten, we have Arc. Arc is so heavy. Like they didn't make it light enough for people to make mods and make it run well. I mean, Arc has got a lot of stuff going in the background. It's not optimized as well as it would need to be a mod platform. So I think something like this, if they can make something that just is really easy to mod that uses Unreal Engine, that would be a big selling point for me, because you'd have so much flexibility to make these game modes easily. Where if you look at something like Arma with their scripting language, it can be, it's very difficult to get into for someone who's not an advanced programmer, and it uses its very own language. So it's kind of difficult to jump in and start doing it. You have to learn it all from scratch, where Unreal Engine uses C++. So there's a lot of people that program for a living that could step into it and have a general idea of how it works and create things. And so that's the main thing I want to see now that they're into 1.0, and this should be stable, seeing what kind of cool mods and maybe game modes that people start creating using this platform.
Yes, very cool. So as Brian mentioned, they've upped the player cap by
20 people.
100.
It was 80 before.
People. Yep. So there's now 20 maps of the game. They mentioned that you can now play 7 different factions. I'm not going to be able to sell it to you here because I haven't played it, but I think 87% overall out of 42,000 reviews on Steam is enough if this is your kind of game. And again, it's called Squad for a reason. This is a game that you typically do want to play with people that you know. But Donnie's pointing out that there's a zombie mod in the game now, so they're working towards that. So very cool.
It'd be nice if a lot of the people that made mods for Arma would turn around and start making similar, maybe the really popular ones, start making them for something like this and kind of get away from Arma, because Arma's, as you've seen, hasn't been updated really very much in a long time. It's not the platform of the future. So
yeah, well, it's always cool to see a game. I remember when this game first launched, we talked about it, and it is cool now that they are in 1.0 and out of early access. So congrats to the folks over at Squad. Good work, guys. We look forward to see what's coming in the future. All right.
Very good.
We're doing a little bit of a shorter program tonight, Brian, and with that being the case, do you have a game giveaway for the boys and girls joining us this evening on the program?
Yeah, so I'm going to be giving away a copy of Generation Zero, and this is currently for sale for pretty much $25 on the Steam Marketplace. Has very positive recent, did have mixed overall, and so it's similar to, they say, similar to games you played, Rust and Left 4 Dead 2. That's an interesting combination of the two, but that means there are guns in there. But this is a Generation Zero, and if you want to enter that exclamation point giveaway, and we'll give it away here within an hour. Actually, it'll be ending probably 45 minutes. We'll be giving it away. So
absolutely. And if you're not here joining us live, you should be. We're here live every Tuesday. There will be a Tuesday coming up in a couple of weeks that will be on probably a Monday or a Wednesday, right around the election here in the U.S. So stay tuned for that. But we are here most every other Tuesday, right here on Twitch, DLive, and on YouTube. All right. Well, let's keep the train rolling here, Brian. Yet another week, and this has got to be a record of Last Oasis. We've got yet another another new creature, another new walker in Last Oasis. And I believe we've had one of these like the past 5 or 6 weeks now. Either a new walker, a new weapon. We saw the gas bombs or whatever they were
the
last
bombs.
week.
Yep.
So let's take a look at the newest walker in Last Oasis. All right, so that is called the Panda Walker.
Panda Walker.
Yeah, and it's got white flags with a black dot in the middle, so maybe that's their attempt at making it kind of look like a panda.
So what is the role of this? Because I've compared this to Ark in that these walkers are like dinosaurs. They have specific tasks. Yeah. We showed, I think it was last week, the one where it would drill into lava and water and you could gather those resources. This one is a transportation walker, and it's made for transporting other walkers. So you can actually load up to 5 other walkers onto this one to haul them around. So it's a good way to transport, because you got to remember the whole point of this game is you're trying to keep ahead of, if I remember correctly, is it the cold behind you, or I don't know if you're being chased by
the sun. The sun.
Okay, so the sun's chasing you, and it's cold. Yeah. You're waiting for things to melt in front of you, and so you're constantly moving. So now this one will hold up to 5 other walkers, except for itself. You can't carry another panda with the panda. Gotcha. It does have a limited carry weight, so that will be one of your, aside from the 5 slots, your carry weight will be one of the limitations. It has a lot of deck space, so you can build structures, weapons, etc. on it. It has all of the other abilities like hatch and modules that the regular walker has. So they said they named it Panda because Lucas didn't want us to, and we'll do anything to see if we can break Lucas's eternal happiness. That's why they named it Panda.
Lucas.
So somebody must be somebody internally. He's probably the manager of the project or something.
George Lucas.
George Lucas, yeah.
Yeah, that's the first person I thought of.
Somebody in there said, "I don't like the name Panda," so that everyone else voted to name it Panda. So
we've seen that work out in the past. New walker in the game. It's in there now. So if you are a Last Oasis player, you can go ahead and check it out.
Very nice. All right. So let's talk a little bit about No Man's Sky.
Okay.
I know you love No Man's Sky.
My coworker asked me about it today, actually.
You'll see there's a lot of cool stuff happening this week with it.
Great.
So they have their Origins, and so they're introducing update 3.0 for Origins. And what this does is it dramatically expands the universe of No Man's Sky. And so let's go ahead and play the video really quick. And then we'll go over some of the things that they've added and kind of fill in the gaps of what's in the video. I'll read some of this for our listeners. It says pretty much everything in the game is procedural. So they're making a point of that. See there, Nick. Multiplayer is working.
Yeah, great. Only 4 freaking years, 5, 6 years out of. Yeah, who cares? Very free looking. I'll give him that.
Yeah. There's that new magnitude they a couple weeks ago, a month ago.
I mean, the trailers always look very cool. I'll give you that.
So in this,
I don't know.
So what they've done in this one, they've added a bunch of new planets. So pretty much it says existing solar systems have birthed new planets, creating millions of untouched new worlds to explore. So a lot of what they did is they added a lot of more variety to it. They did some things to make it to where you'd have more diversity in the planets, new terrain types, and a lot of new creatures, new weather conditions, colossal buildings, and more. Also, they added binary and ternary stars, and they added a really big difference to their landscapes. You know, you saw they kind of showed at the very end of there, you know, the grass looking over. They made it so where you had much better landscapes than before. They redid the user interface to make it better. They created a lot more diversity on the planets with the plants and other things that are on there, and made it so, because remember, everything is kind of generated with computers. So they created more variety so that you could create more unique plant types. They created different alien fauna. So whatever that means, you know, they've got volcanoes and all kinds of other crazy things. And then they added cloud and weather variety, which I don't remember what they were doing before, but they said the cloud rendering quality has been significantly improved and the range of cloud cover has been expanded, creating more variety between clear skies and overcast planets. They added marshes into the game. They added much more color variety than before. They increased the palettes that you could have. They improved the teleporter system. They added a photo mode, or they revamped the photo mode system so you can take pictures and do different effects to it. They have their colossal archive buildings. So these are really big buildings that are on planets now, and they are pretty much hubs for alien life. So they have huge vaults that are repositories for data, treasure, and you can find ruins in there. They have historical stories that you can do through those buildings. They have infestations, which will have planets can become overrun with certain types of vegetation or whatever life forms. They redid the lighting system. They added in more buildings types. They added in volcanoes, as I mentioned before, firestorms, storm gameplay effects. So you can have blizzards and things like that. They added a bunch of new items and crafting items. They enhanced the terrain detail on there now. They enhanced the planet quality settings to where that looks a lot better. They adjusted the exploration guide. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. I mean, there's meteors, gravitational anomalies, tornadoes, lightning, planetary NPC encounters, upgrades to the insect life. They've added a bunch there. Wild robots are in there now. And then they also improve the AI, the creature behaviors. So sandworms, that big thing you saw coming out in like landing, that was a sandworm. So this is it's pretty big. I mean, it's a huge update. There's 3.0.
I've got a couple things I need to say here. First of all,
Yes.
Firebomb says it's scrolled up in the chat. Firebomb says No Man's Sky looks interesting. I just can't bring myself to install. I bought it in Nick's review. It never gave me the feeling to install. Okay. I've made it clear multiple times. When the game first came out, it was a total lie. It was a total sham. They have done, and Green Man says, I have to admire that they're still doing this stuff, working back to, I don't necessarily admire it. I'm glad that they're finally releasing the product they said they were going to. And as they get further and further down the road, I think people will be more and more open to playing it. I'm not against No Man's Sky. I don't think I can't give you an honest recommendation or review. I haven't played the game in probably 4 years. So, my old opinion on No Man's Sky is relevant to very early game. It's nothing now, and I've made it clear that it's more of a personal vendetta than anything else. But McGrogan says that the gameplay gets old and it gets repetitive fast. And I think that's still the core of the problem. The game still, for the most part, again, take this for what it's worth. I believe for the most part, the game is pretty much still flying from planet to planet and collecting enough resources to go on to the next planet. And that's kind of what you do. And I'm not saying that other games don't do that, but for some reason, and McGrogan is not the first one I've heard say this, that it looks really cool. There's a lot of cool things to do.
That's very difficult.
At the core of the game, that's what you do over and over.
I think when you have a totally generated world and everything being procedural, I think gets very difficult to really create something that isn't repetitive. I mean, everything's procedural. You can't necessarily create as much of an experience for them.
Yeah, you can.
But I think if you look at like Elite Dangerous, for example, it'll be interesting to see how they are tackling this exact same problem. I know that they're doing a bunch of changes in the upcoming update, and there's actually some news, regarding them. One thing I just want to mention with No Man's Sky is they did put out 2 updates after this. One was just a bug fix, 3.01, and then 3.02 had a lot of fixes as well for this, because this was a really big update. They put out 2 hot fixes to fix little issues that came from the 3.0.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more beyond this other than creating a lot of quests and maybe creating a storyline that you can follow, how much they can really do to make this not repetitive. I think Elite Dangerous has the exact same issue that they're trying to tackle by making it to where you can do more things on land and bases and everything else.
And in the case
I did want to mention,
in the case of Elite Dangerous, though, it's you essentially are just like shipping things around the galaxy, right? Isn't that kind of that's the goal? Like
they're also, but the thing is they're trying to expand beyond that. Like they've had it to where you can do planetary landings in their Horizon update. They're going to be doing like multi-crew, and they're going to make it to where you can make bases and do more on the planet, kind of like what you do in No Man's Sky. So they're expanding theirs to be much better. One thing, Elite Dangerous, I'm going to mention really quick, the Horizons DLC is now becoming a free expansion. So that used to be, originally they released Horizon. That was going to be one DLC. They turned that into their season pass. So they're going to now make that a part of the base game, which gives you planetary landings and all this. And then they're going to be putting out a whole new DLC after this, which really expands upon everything. And so you'll have your base game now, which is everything that's out currently, and then they're going to be adding something beyond that. So if you never did buy the Horizons expansion, you'll be able to get that for free here, I think, on October 27th.
So Firebomb's coming at me in the chat. It says, hold on. Hold the hell up. Dead by Daylight is repetitive as a mofo, and it's played constantly. Repetitive gameplay isn't a bad thing. Correct. Dead by Daylight.
But you're playing against other people, though. Is the difference.
But it's not even that. When you play Dead by Daylight, you're playing a competitive game. You're playing a repetitive game. That's what it is. No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous are galaxies. And at the end of the day, you are stuck, at least in the case of No Man's Sky, you were stuck going to planets to find carbon to power your ship. You would just get enough carbon to get to the next place you wanted to go to, and then you would just run around the planet collecting enough carbon to get to your next spot. Yep. I don't have a problem with repetition. I play Call of Duty for Christ's sake.
System, though, to where you feel like you're unlocking bigger and bigger things as you move along.
It's got to do with what the game is. Call of Duty. I've played that religiously for months. That is the definition of repetition. I get it. But I know what I'm getting into. I know what it is.
But with each match on those type of games, playing against other people, they feel different. Like you have a much more difficult time against the other teams. Yeah. And No Man's Sky doesn't really create that. Like you're going to have the same experience regardless. Whatever it generates for you is the experience that you have.
Correct.
So
yeah, I just wanted, yeah. Again, it's not that repetition. It's the problem. It's the kind of game that there's repetition that people get kind of put off by. Like Green Man says, Saul and I were so excited to build this build a multi-man ship in Elite Dangerous until we built it. That's the problem.
Yeah, and then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing now. I think with the next expansion that they're putting out, you'll start having it to where you have ships that you can walk around. They'll have ships that you can have people take very different roles on. That's what would make it more fun, because then it would be a group activity. It would create that variety. And I think that that's what they're offering with Robert's space.
Star Citizen?
Star Citizen. That's what it's offering more of, is having the multi-crew feature. Elite Dangerous is going to be doing a lot of the same thing. They're going to be adding the multi-crew. It'll be interesting to see how many features they have, that has as well. How much, for such a big drastic difference in price between the two games. If you buy a ship to Elite Dangerous, how many of the equal features are they going to have? That'll be interesting to see in the long run.
Yeah. So let's, you got anything else from Elite Dangerous?
No, that's it. I just wanted to mention that they are bundling that in prior. So
awesome. I do want to talk about a survival game that we haven't really heard. We've had the little updates here and there, but nothing too big here as big updates. And that is our friends over at XERA. They put out a Twitter video either early this week or late last week, Brian, showing off a sneak peek for their new map, is what they're calling this. And they show this, and it's the Twitter videos are not always the greatest thing in the world, but you can see that there's pretty, probably waist high foliage. It appears to be some sort of fire burning in the distance, maybe a plane crash or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like a tail of a plane.
Yeah, so they've got that. And then due to interest in that video, they released a couple of stills, still screenshots, and those look very cool in themselves. Here's the first one here. This is just what appears to be a wooded area. There's a little bit of a green glow in the distance. I don't know if that's like a toxic area or something like that. And you can see the heavy foliage in there. And
I assume that's what he's moving towards.
I would assume that's what he's moving towards. It looks like maybe one of those green brake sticks or something like that lights things up, some sort of beacon. And this looks really cool. So we've now got it confirmed that XERA is working on a new map. We've seen some stuff from the new map behind the sines. Looks very cool, very promising. And of course, a lot of the other features.
When I first kind of discovered Josh, because he was doing live streams on Twitch, doing development on the game, working on the map, doing a lot of things. And that's something that, he designed that whole original map by himself and did all the work on it. And now that he's got a team of people, they've come out into release, and he's got a team of people to where now they can probably do a much more extensive map and put a lot more into it than what they were able to do early on when it was just a one-man team. So yeah, it'd be cool to see what they come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very much looking forward to that. We've got some videos, some screenshots and whatnot on their Twitter. You can follow them on Twitter at PlayXERA, XERA, and you can see the latest on that stuff as they release it. So we'll have hopefully more from them. And I think we talked with Josh via the chat last week, and as they get closer to 1.0, either him and some members of his team hopefully will be joining us here on the program to discuss a little bit about that and get a little bit of inside baseball as to what's going on in their world. So that's the latest from our friends over at XERA.
Nice. So there's been a lot of updates in there's a game that we haven't heard about so much consistently, but that's Survive the Nights. They put out their 1.5 patch. There's a number of videos for this.
Yes, there are.
There's a lot going on. So maybe we should just play the videos and then kind of discuss. I don't recall, not all of them have talking, so we could probably talk over these.
I'm going to do the one I don't, let's see, there's two, hold on. The one that I don't want to So yeah, there's one that's got talking. So there's the showcase, which is the trailer. Let's show that first. That one doesn't have talking, and then the next one is narrated. So this is the Alpha 15 Survive the Nights trailer. Dun, dun.
And one thing, they are showcasing a lot of things that they have added in this 1.5 version. It's like 7 Days to Die on steroids as far as the look. It's kind of cool.
The graphics.
Yeah. If you look at some of the mechanics, they seem very similar to what they're doing in 7 Days to Die. It seems like kind of a similar concept of creating a base that hordes are going to attack.
Yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, that seems... It's a good... We talk about repetition. It's a very good... There's a lot to build towards as the zombies get harder and harder.
I think that's something that 7 Days to Die did a really good job of. I don't know how much more development we're going to see out of 7 Days to Die, though, as far as beyond what the mechanics currently are.
Yeah, this looks pretty intense.
Yeah. Looks like it'd be fun with the group.
Very much so.
And they have a lot more unique tools for trying to prevent them from coming. Like you saw there, that thing shooting propane out and burning hordes as they're approaching. I mean, they have a lot more of that kind of thing that 7 Days to Die does not have.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put spikes down, you can create lanes and use that to kind of manipulate it, but they don't have, like what you saw there, very specific tools and things that you can create to kind of funnel them through and try to pick them off one at a time.
Yeah, so here's a little bit of a longer video that's actually narrated by somebody on their team, showing off some of the things in... This is more of a devlog style of video, and yes, this is still Survive the Night, so let's take a look at that.
Yo, what's up guys, JT here. I'm going to be bringing you the update video for version 1.5 today. This is probably the most important update that we've worked on since releasing the game. It introduces the Horde system, player leveling, and a bunch of other cool stuff as well. So let's jump straight into it, guys. Enjoy. Let's kick this off by talking about player leveling. We've gone with a pretty basic system to start with. Currently there's 20 levels, and we decided to stick with just 20 levels so that we can get the balance right and really get a feel for how the XP plays a part in the game. Then we'll introduce more rewards and higher levels in the future. Right now you can get XP from killing zombies, interacting with items in the world, and also completing hordes, which we're going to talk about as well. We wanted to add some progression with the tools that are able to be used for fortifications, so we've added this new drill. This allows players with a little bit more experience to really dig into the game and get fortifying much quicker than your new players who are going to be using hammers and nails. Adding hordes to the game without giving you guys the means to protect yourselves via free-place fortifications just wasn't an option for us. So we've developed this all-new system which allows you guys to place free-place fortifications, walls, barricades, barbed wire piles, strengthen them the normal way just like you would on the fixed forts on the windows, and just really allows you guys to build out your bases from just the interiors that you previously had and give yourselves an extra layer of defense as well as the hordes start to get more difficult. Okay, let's talk hordes. We've gone for a system that is tied to you as an individual rather than your character's life. This means that if you die, you're able to jump back into game and continue from where you left off. You can go back to your items or your base and continue fighting the hordes from where you were. If you choose that that's not what you want to do, when you die, you're able to set your horde difficulty to any difficulty that's lower than your best ever achieved horde difficulty. This means if you join in a new server, that's also an option for you. But if you do want to continue progressing from where you were, that's completely possible as well. In addition to that, you don't get penalized if you decide to flee the horde. When the horde notification arrives, you'll have the option to flee or stand your ground. If you flee, nothing negative happens to you as a player in the game. You can just choose to take on that horde difficulty the next night. We chose to implement the hordes in this way so that we could stay true to our original concept of allowing the player to choose how they interact with the environment. If you want to roam free and evade all the zombies, that's completely possible. Or if you want to hold your ground and fight off the zombies that are trying to kill you, then that's completely up to you. The choice is yours. As always, guys, this update includes so many things that I've not been able to cover in this video, including but not limited to a Unity engine update to Unity 2019, loads of performance improvements, a bunch of quality of life fixes, and also a lot of game balancing tweaks as well. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Jump back in if you've not checked the game out for a while, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
All right, yeah, cheers. I haven't played this game in a significant period of time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so
now this is something we haven't seen. 7 Days to Die, we constantly are talking about how we love the mechanic. And I'm surprised that we haven't seen other games try to take that mechanic and replicate it. And it's not like they're replicating it. Well, they're not replicating it down to the procedural level, but the mechanic as far as building a base and having hordes come at it, and giving you all these different tools to try to make that happen. This is one of the first ones that I've seen that, or at least coming close to a similar concept. I'm just surprised with how much fun 7 Days to Die is and that whole mechanic that we just haven't seen more of that. And especially, we always complain about the graphics and everything else on 7 Days to Die, which has been getting better, but they're not going to be making it modern looking or beautiful in it
correct
at all.
Yeah, the game looks as it
release.
Looks.
But the mechanics itself are great, and you figured people would say, "Hey, I can make a prettier version of that."
Yeah,
and you just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and this might be it. We definitely need to add this to our game rotation.
To our list.
I know I own this. I'm pretty sure you do because I think I
own it as well.
Yeah, we played it. We played it a couple months ago. It was you, me, Musty, and maybe another person or two. Mm-hmm. But we only played for a little bit and didn't really accomplish anything. We
didn't run into any big issues though. I mean,
no, we didn't.
Everything worked. Yeah, other than I think the locks, but they had just redone those like the week after we played. And the things that we had said, hey, they could do this better. They could do this better. I think like the week after they released an update that addressed everything that we talked about during that gameplay session, which was kind of funny.
There's a couple of videos in here about AI and weapons. We're running a little short on time, so we'll keep those in the show notes. They're quick little Twitter videos, nothing crazy with that. But that has survived the night. A significant update, 1.5, looks to be probably one of the largest updates since the game's been out. Seems to be a lot of good stuff in here. So that has survived the nights. And while we're on the train here of survival games, we've got a quick patch from Dead Matter 0.3.0. This is a big patch, Brian. I'm just going to go over a couple of the quick additions. Claim structures now save. This does not save containers in claims, example closets, and does not save things you place down, for example backpacks. But it does save crates, gun cases you build, as well as other contents. So that is now in there. Time now saves to the database, which helps on some persistent issues. They added toggle vehicle spawning admin commands, so you can now turn that on and off if you're running your own server. In single player only, players can now save their character in the pause menu. Facial hair, of course, Brian, you and I would rather, somewhat experts on this. Facial hair now shows in the game after creating your character. So you would create the character screen, and then in the game, it would just not be there. So that was obviously an issue. Falling through the ground will now teleport you to a random spawn point on the main map. So that is their solution to glitching through the mesh there. Added new load menu hits. Added descriptions that were missing to a number of items. Some food items now give you small amounts of hydration. Conditions now show a notification when given to the player. Many static vehicles now have a glove box that can be searched, so a new searchable item. That's pretty neat. Many drivable vehicles now have improved headlights, as well as a working speedometer and fuel gauge. So you actually see that in the game, which is rather neat. Added various missing inspect and select firearm animations to certain weapons. A polish pass on the MP7 reload, and added ammo checks to make sure that's working correctly. And then added world inventory to the trunk of the Crown Vic taxi and police car. So those are just some of the big additions. There's a whole bunch of changes as well, and a bunch of quality of life fixes. This is a significant update for these guys as well. This is a couple pages long. And of course, it does include a character wipe, as some of the additions and changes change the character, the facial hair, some of those things. So, yeah, patch 0.30 for Dead Matter.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I mean, as you said, we are getting short on time. Let's go to ARC really quick. And they put out a lot of updates this week. So 313.37, this was put out on September 24th. They fixed multiple level design related bugs, such as holes, floating foliage, incorrect volumes, etc. They don't say what map exactly that's on, but prevented players from being able to level up tames above the server specified level clamp. They fixed multiple mesh methods. They fixed an exploit with a space whale, and they updated the PC client patch notes URL. And then 313.41, structure stasis code optimized. So official only for now, whilst we continue to investigate impact. So you'll see this on the official servers if you're running a private server like we do. They're not rolling that out to that one yet. 313.43, this was on the 26th. Fixed multiple cases where players or dinos could get stuck in structures via relogging or fast traveling. Now, this was official only as well, related to the stasis code. So it shouldn't be an issue on private servers. 313.46, this is also on September 26th. Fixed server crashes related to stasis optimization code, official only again. And additional stasis optimizations, official only again. 313.49, further optimizations made to structure stasis code and fixed some stasis related crashes. That was on the 27th. 313.52, this was on the 28th. Further optimizations made to the structure stasis code on official only. Fixed the crash related to this.
Did they do anything about structure stasis in this patch, Brian?
I mean, well, there's one more thing here. Fixed the crash related to the stasis optimization code, official only.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I just want to verify.
Fixed OSDs and veins not being destroyed when leaving a render distance. They fixed gas veins continuing to explode gas balls even when they have a collector attached. And then finally 313.55, and this was on the 29th. Further optimizations made to the structure stasis code, official only, and they fixed a bug which would cause spectator mode to stop working. So that is current with ARC. A lot of the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Well, if you remember last week, or maybe it was the week prior, we had 7 updates. 6 of them were fix of a server crash of some sort or another. So, yeah, that's pretty funny. Conan Exiles, a really quick update here with them. Nothing super crazy, nothing to write home about. PC hotfix 29.09.20. This is hotfix 2.0.4. They're dealing with a few issues with NPC pathing, improving our under mesh measures. This is a common issue with all of these games, and also providing a much requested fix regarding clans being unable to interact with altars and some other objects in the game. So that is the update for Conan. Nothing crazy on that, but they are working on their big thing that they're working on right now, which is on the test servers, is their anti-undermesh measures so that people can't get under the map and wreak all hell. So, yeah, small update there from Conan, but they are, of course, working away at it.
All right, another game, Ring of Elysium, had a small update. This is their September 24th, 2020. And they added a new character here, a female, called Mancy, Deadly Seductress Styles. So that's what she is. DirectX 12 client update. So now users of the GTX 1050 by NVIDIA graphics card, you're automatically on DirectX 12 when you open up the client. Then they did 2 bug fixes, fix an issue where certain buildings and objects would render incorrectly, and then they fixed an issue where certain items in the coin shop could not be purchased. So that is it for ROE. We also have on here, let's see, we have Dead by Daylight, which came out with an update. And this is their 4.3.0. And there was a link to patches. They hadn't put the patch notes out earlier yet. Let me double check to make sure that's actually been fix here. So
Okay. Yeah.
but they put it out there 4.3.0, and then that's first of all the executioner. They tweaked that. They did update various perks. They did a graphical update to the Macmillan estate, and then let's see. Yeah, they didn't put out the patch notes yet, which is kind of frustrating for this. They did announce it. It came out yesterday, but they haven't.
They still don't have patch notes. Wow. Well,
but that is roughly so. There, I mean, they did the executioner changes. They did some changes to perks. They did a graphical update, which you can go if you go to the dev blog update. That has a lot of images, but it's not the official patch notes for it. But you can see some of the changes in there.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, that update is out 4.3.0. Let's talk about SCUM here for a minute, Brian. They've got a couple of things from them. They put a patch out 0.4.90.25732. It's like a runoff. It's a number runoff on a calculator. They've added night vision they made some changes to night vision. That makes it, they've got a little side-by-side comparison here. You can see the left is what it used to be, the right is what it is now, which is the one on the left was just like a green filter.
Yeah.
Just green over the camera. That's not how night vision works. On the right is what it actually looks like. The whites, in this case, the lights are very blown out, as they should be, and then the whole rest of the world has got a kind of a mint color hue over it. That's very much more realistic to what actual night vision looks like. So they did a tweak on that, making that look much more realistic. They show that again here in this little GIF, of some either a flash of lightning or car lights turning on or something. You can see it really blows out the night vision, which is exactly how it should do that. They've added a couple of new animations for some different guns. In this case, they're showing the AK when you chamber, you see if there's something in the chamber of the gun. They added a new pistol holster to the game as well, so you can now craft that, and it is available in game, as well as a bunch of bug fixes, some quality of life additions, and then some admin commands on the server. So that is that, and then there was also another update, 0.4.91.25757, where they fixed a bug where the pistol holsters would not decay, fixed a bug where some military area assets would not block sentry vision, fixed a bug where cutting pistol holsters would give rags instead of animal skin, fixed a bugs where use map base build restrictions config variable did not work, and then a possible fix for a bug where sometimes when the chopping action was complete, sticks would disappear. So that is what they are working on in SCUM, another up and coming survival game. We've got a couple of games here, Brian, on the that are all kind of maturing at the same time, and we had a lull for I think 2 years.
I think SCUM is the other one that I think really I've been looking at as far as a modding platform. That would be a really awesome one because they did such a good job with the code. It's built on Unreal Engine. I could see that as a really cool modding platform if they build that in enough. So that's kind of the one I've been keeping my eye on, separate from some of these other ones. So
gotcha.
We will see. And there's a video for people if they want to follow up. There's a video that goes through a lot of the changes for SCUM that you're more than welcome to check out in our show notes.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, as we are wrapping up here, what else we got? Got time for probably one more thing.
Okay. Well, I'll mention really quick. Unturned did an update. And so on there, they also put in the new Unity. So the Unity 2019 LTS beta is what they're on right now. And then Rocket League, I just wanted to mention some things with that. First of all, they went free to play, and they put in the new challenges system. So that's live. Should help a lot with especially new players. PlayStation Plus is no longer required to play Rocket League online. So you don't need to have PlayStation Plus for that. Season 1 is now live on all platforms. They did a number of bug fixes in a recent patch, their 1.83 patch. Also, they added their new, they have that Rocket Pass, also a new competitive season that began on the 22nd. The challenges, the competitive season 14 rewards. They added a number of new content on there, and then a bunch of achievements and things they changed. So that is Rocket League. And I think that pretty much covers it for today.
Yeah, I'd say I'm surprised we got through everything here in a rather rather speedy time here on a little bit of a shorter program tonight. But a lot of people saying, "Oh, boo! You're going to skip current players tip." No, never. Not for you guys. We're always here, and we've got current players here for DayZ. Currently playing 18,590. The 24-hour peak 29,999 with a 7-day peak of 34,931. Taking a look over at Ark Survival Evolved, 32,462 people are currently playing that with a 24-hour peak of 52,107, followed by a 7-day peak of 65,836. Moving on over to Rust, currently playing 32,449, the 24-hour peak 48,849 with a 7-day peak of 65,269. Taking a look at 7 Days to Die, this is probably the furthest into a patch that we've still had these player numbers for 7 days. 16,664 individuals currently playing that. 21,427 is your 24-hour peak with a 7-day peak of, wow, look at this, Brian, 30,036 for the 7-day peak for 7 Days to Die. Very impressive. That puts them in a place they were not quite some time ago. Taking a look at Conan Exiles, currently playing 14,949, the 24-hour peak, 20,996, with a 7-day peak of 27,997. And finally, wrapping us up this week, last Oasis, currently playing 293, the 24-hour peak, 422, with a 7-day peak just a couple shy of 500 at 447. And that is going to bring us current with current players.
Very good. Well, let's go and roll into tip of the week, where either give a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. And I figured, hey, why not? We'll do No Man's Sky, since Nick constantly is requesting a tip for that. So this is tip of the week.
I've never gotten enough. $60, the most well-spent $60 in my life. Couldn't think of anything I'd rather do with that money besides tip of the week and all that fun stuff, I guess.
So in No Man's Sky, first of all, you can warp to other planets. To be able to do this, you need to use portals, and they're scattered across various planets. These are a bit of a pain to find, but you can build a signal booster, and that helps you to find a monolith on the planet. Now, there are multiple different kinds of monoliths, so you need to find a portal monolith. Once you find the portal monolith, you will see an option to locate a portal, and it will give you a map marker that you can follow. You get to that map marker point, then you're able to activate the portal. You use it by charging it with isotopes, oxides, and silicates. Then once you have that portal, you're able to transport by putting in a glyph sequence. So they pretty much have a unique code that is accessible that leads to some other portal somewhere else in the universe. So that can be to specific planets, for maybe ones that your friends have, and they've been able to unlock that sequence, or they're ones that you can find from fallen travelers inside of caves. So if you find those fallen travelers, you then have the proper glyph sequence, and as Jonesy's saying, pretty much Stargate. They built Stargate into the game, and that's how they do it. So that is No Man's Sky, and hopefully you can get that made and use it while you're playing this weekend, Nick.
I'm not playing this weekend, but I will give it a try here sooner rather than...
Yeah, I think they've added enough to where you might be able to get over that feeling when you play it. They've added enough in there. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so drastically different than day one that hopefully now it's like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. Or there is stuff in there to actually do. And there are one cool thing that we did play as a group for a while. You can build these really big ships that you can all run around on. So they have some cool things for playing with groups as well that I think you might appreciate.
One of these days, I promise.
We'll get there.
Before 500.
All right, we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready to roll for this raffle here?
Yeah. What do we got?
All right, so let's go ahead and draw Firebomb 80. Congratulations, Firebomb. Longtime fan of the show. He actually has printed up his own shirts for us. He's got some cool stuff going on. So I will send you a link and let me know what you think. But this is for Generation Zero. So congratulations.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Alrighty, Brian, on an abbreviated show, that's all the time we've got. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Parler. Or if you want to go to my blog, biteoftech.com. Also, we have our website, infectionpodcast.com. If you go to the right-hand side of that, if you want to join our server on Discord, you can submit news. You can hang out and chat. There's a lot of various things going on in there. You can join our Steam group, get a notification right before the live show starts. If you join us live, you can join in on the game giveaways and all the things that are happening each week. You can chat and give us a little bit of harassment while we do the live show. We also have our video forums. So if you go to Twitch, to YouTube, to BitChute, or DLive, you can watch the video forms of the podcast. We do also stream to some of those live. We also have our podcast extras, which is the pre and post show that you can go and watch those on. That's run by Judd. Thank you. And then we have our audio only forums. So whether you're on a mobile device or any kind of thing that uses a podcast platform, we have links in the lower right for a bunch of different ways to do that. And then show notes now for 298 episodes. If you're going to listen after the fact, you want to follow along, just pull up our website, jump to that set of show notes, and you can click links and view them locally as we step through that as you would want to do it at your own pace. Also, we have our ways to support us through amazon.infectionpodcast.com, humble.infectionpodcast.com, or you can go and give us your Twitch or gaming, whatever, Prime Gaming subs on Twitch. They made it simpler, but then I had to say more things to actually say what it is. It didn't help at all. So
I do want to thank a couple of individuals, as you mentioned, the Twitch Gaming, Twitch Prime, whatever it's called. Our friend Falcon, our friend Judd, and the sitting on the top of the throne with Green Man, UGX Vibe. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It is greatly appreciated. And Brian, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate what you do. We are one more episode. And then we've got one more episode in the 200s, and then we are at 300 episodes, which we are not going to have anything for in particular. But as always, Brian, thank you very much. Appreciate you being a little bit flexible with the times on this episode, and we will we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Alrighty, folks. Well, as I said at the beginning, dudenit.com. People are breaking down my door trying to get that guide. You can check that out, dudenit.com. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. If you missed any portion of the program, you can check out videos, show notes, links, all that fun jazz. It's on our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.